you need that second layer down that really are keeping all the divisions and all the departments focused, and they're the ones that are making the decisions for the organizations, but they're also the ones that are in charge of getting their troops underneath them marching in the same order. So I think that executive sponsorship, if you don't have that, you're likely to fail. But really that second level down is the level that provides the direction, the organization, and are really making the decisions for the entire project.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, that the executive leadership needs those agents below them and they need to really empower them to be decision makers. Oftentimes we'll see people will be at that second level, but might be a little uncomfortable with making these big decisions that are leading their company. So having that executive support and reassurance that, you are in this role for a reason and we empower you to make these decisions. Obviously escalate them if it's something that needs to be escalated, but that's a key point there, Nate. I totally agree.
Yeah, and then you also get the dynamic of the founder-led organizations. Usually these smaller businesses are oftentimes the original founder is still the one running the company, and that could be a good and bad thing, when it comes to these projects, because you need that person oftentimes who people are following, and oftentimes people have worked for that same founder, that same leader the entire time they're at the business. But you need that person oftentimes to be the face of the change, even if they're not involved. I totally agree with what you guys are saying, that you can rely on that next level down to sort of empower them, make decisions, that sort of thing. But you need that founder leader who probably has been making a lot of decisions for the organization over time. You still need them involved in getting their buy-in and really supporting the change within the organization. In which, speaking of that, kind of getting into this, keeping with this whole thread of internal buy-in and getting the employees of these smaller businesses involved in these projects. Matt on LinkedIn says, one key to success is the change readiness of the team on the floor, not just the readiness of the execs who might be driving the implementation and transformation. So it kind of gets to what you guys are saying, is you need to get people involved outside of just, the CEO or the founder, or even the next layer down. You need the frontline people that are doing this job every day. You need them involved to enable the change like that.
Yeah.
So here's a question from Darian on LinkedIn. Darian asks, what are the most common missteps small businesses make during this transition, and how can they avoid them? Let's start with you, Nate. What do you think there?
Well, I think, and this will go right back to the point that was just made. I think the most common is that we start all of our engagements off with an executive visioning. So whether it's a small organization, this session might be a couple hours. To some of our larger clients, we'll have a couple days that we'll work on this executive vision. But I think it's really important, and if you don't take this step, you're already starting off on the wrong foot, and that is getting the executive buy-in. So when you mentioned, Eric, that a lot of these organizations are founder-based and are founder-led still, it's really important to make sure the founder and the leader of the organization sets up a vision. The people below him understand the vision, and then all the way down to if it's a manufacturing organization, all the way down to the shop floor. So having the executive vision and getting that vision out and communicating really well with the organization, just exactly where you are, where you're going, how technology is going to get there, and then what that means to everyone. So how your job is going to be different, and what are the changes you're going to see over the next 6 to 12 months, be it on the shop floor, at an executive level, at a mid-level, just detailing for everyone what exactly that means. If you don't have that clear vision and that clear communication, you're going to find everyone, it's kind of like, let's go over there and that's your target, instead of let's go to this exact target and let's figure out how we're going to get there.
Yeah, kind of getting everyone to row in the same direction and preach from the same hymn book. Is that the right? What's the cliche?
Yeah,
Sing from
exactly.
the same hymn book. I'm not sure about cliches. I always find a way to butcher them. That's really interesting. That's well said. And I'm wondering, Jordy, when it comes to technology decisions and the way small businesses implement technology, are there any sort of missteps that are more common with smaller companies in terms of, taking on too much complexity or choosing the wrong system that doesn't fit their needs? Or, are there any things like around the technology itself that you see smaller businesses more likely to fall victim to?
Yeah, I would say just defining your requirements up front and understanding, what are your pain points and what are your requirements that you need a system to help you, do your day-to-day job. Sometimes when you look at a new software system or a vendor comes in, they'll tell you all these great new features and functionality that might not even be applicable to you at this point in your growth stages. So really looking back at, what are the pain points that you're working with? What are you trying to have this system help you to do your day-to-day jobs with, while also keeping in mind your future goals and your future growth. So you don't want to get a system that can work for you today, but maybe in 3 years you'll outgrow it again, because obviously these transformations are a pretty large lift to take on. So looking at the future, but also understanding your requirements and what you're really trying to enable the software to help you do.
Yeah. And that sort of brings up another follow-up point based on what Jordy said there, Nate, and that is, Jordy was just talking about defining requirements and the need to do that stuff up front. And so he sort of started to answer this question, but I'll ask it anyway, just to dive into it in more detail. But when a small business is getting started on their technology journey, let's just say they've recognized the pain, they recognize that, hey, QuickBooks isn't working for us. So we know we need to go out there and get, say, an Oracle NetSuite or a Sage system or Acumatica, one of these smaller ERP systems or ERP systems built for smaller companies. But before you jump in and just go buy technology or go start getting demos and talking to vendors, what else should a small business do in addition to defining requirements to sort of get that strategy and roadmap in place and buttoned up first before you just start going out to buy technologies?
Well, I think it's important to what I alluded to earlier, understanding what that vision is, but also understanding where you are and where you're going to be in the future. So we have a client that we're working with now, and it's a great example for this podcast today. They're shifting their business right now. They're a very online based business. All their orders come in online. They have some come in over the phone, but they're really talking about kind of a shift in the way they're doing business. It's really important to not only look at what your technology landscape is, but what your organizational capabilities are now, what technology you're going to need to implement in the future, what skill sets you're going to need in the future. It's important to know that just because your skill set is very well trained on how you're doing business now, your business is going to change. And that's the whole reason you're going through this transformation, is to try and scale and trying to adapt to the new business settings and the requirements that you're going to have in the future. So I think it's very important to say, what technology do we need to get in the future, but really looking at things as a whole and not getting very sideload of saying we're just doing an ERP implementation. You need to say this is part of a technology landscape and part of an organizational landscape that we're trying to support in the future.
Yeah, and you don't have to, even if you go with a modern ERP system that has all these different functions and features and capabilities, doesn't mean you have to implement it all at once. I mean, you can sort of go incrementally and pick off pieces of a system and implement it. Especially if you look at I know one of the reasons why a lot of smaller companies like the product Odoo is because it's more of a modular based system that you can implement just pieces of the system. But then when it's time, you can also integrate those different modules, almost like Lego building blocks, if you will. And that can be pretty powerful because you don't necessarily need to take it all on all at once. And Matt on LinkedIn has a comment just building on Jordy, what you said, but Matt says exactly what Jordy just said. Clients will sometimes look for more functionality than they need, and that can cause problems that are unnecessary. And I think we're all saying the same thing.